Hi guys, I'm back. What a week it's been. Yeah. Should we start at the beginning? Hi guys, it's Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So this is week 13, I believe, of the fertility episodes. Last week a spanner was thrown in the works. Last week was not your normal fertility episode, and last week you all found out that I had been keeping a bit of a secret, and that actually since the end of October Marco and I have been going through round 1 of IVF, which ultimately didn't work. So last week we found out on the Friday that our embryos hadn't made it. They didn't make it to blastocyst. We had none to freeze, and therefore we were out before the end, really. We didn't make it to that finishing point. So instead of sitting here and teaching you all how to bake fertility friendly brownies, I put out our entire journey as your week 12. So this week I thought instead we would have a little sit down and I would sit and kind of just catch up with you all, just tell you what's what, talk you through everything, and just kind of talk to you about where I am now. I think I've been really quiet this week on Instagram. I've just been really quiet this week in general. I have had quite a few people messaging me, asking me if I'm okay, where I am, what I'm doing. So that's what we're going to do this week. I thought this week I'd just kind of sit down with you all, talk to you about where I am, what's going on, and yeah, just have a catch up really. So that's what we're going to do. So this week I thought we'd do it a little bit differently. I have recorded this video so many times. I think this is the fourth time of me recording this, because I just don't know what to say. I think that is ultimately where I'm at with it, whereas I think today there's been a few different developments and this and the other, and I've thought, you know what, sod it, we're gonna do it. So this week we are doing this in our pyjamas. It's absolutely hammering it down downstairs. It's absolutely hammering it down downstairs. No, it's not raining in my house. It is absolutely hammering it down outside. I've lost a nail there, so I'm not feeling all glam. My neck is a different colour to my face, and I've ditched the tea for a good old bloody glass of wine. So go grab yourselves a vino, sit down, and let's just catch up. So where do I start with this? I kind of explained to everyone why we decided to keep this a secret. So we didn't tell anyone that we were doing this IVF. We didn't tell our families. We told a couple of friends, and the only reason I told them and not my families was because A, one of them was in London when we were doing it, and so we kind of met her for lunch and XYZ. Anyway, we told her, and then there were a friend or two from work who knew because I was injecting at work, and it was just a bit, yeah. So we hadn't really told anyone, and I still maintain that that was the right thing to do. I think if we do it again, well, when we do it again, there's no way that I wouldn't tell anyone, because I think as much as it was great that we didn't have anyone asking us loads of questions the whole way through it, at the same time you need that support, and I think I missed that. And I think there were certain times where, you know, I really wanted to just phone my mum and just have a cry, and there were just certain things that I just wanted to share with people all the time, and I just couldn't do. We all know that, you know, I like to share, and I just couldn't do it. So it just made everything that little bit harder, but it also made everything that bit more exciting, especially because the reason, or one of the reasons we weren't telling anyone, was because if it worked, then it meant that I'd have had my first scan just before Christmas, and it would have been a fantastic way to A, tell all our families, but B, draw this to a close. And it just, it just felt right not to tell everyone. And I think for some people that's not the right option. For some people they have to tell people, and that's absolutely fine. For some people they don't, and that too is absolutely fine. But for round 2, I definitely will tell people, because I think I really felt like I needed that support, which I didn't necessarily get. You know, and as great as Marco was, and as much as we supported each other the whole way through that, it would have been nice to, like I say, ring my mum and not have to lie to my grandma and things like that. Like, I think there's just benefits to telling people. Obviously it didn't work, and telling people that it didn't work was so hard. I think we got the phone call that it didn't work while we were on the train to London. So we were on our way to the transfer when we got a phone call to say that they'd not made it, so we didn't need to come in. And that was like, it's such a surreal moment. I can't explain it to you, but I was kind of sat on the train and it just kind of felt like everything stopped. It's the only way I can describe it. Like, I felt like we were on the train for ages and we were literally only at the next stop. So we got off, waited half an hour, and I just literally just cried. And that was it. And then we got the train back and straight away went to my father-in-law's, and I walked in and he was meant to be coming to look after the dog, so he was a bit like, what are you doing here? And I just kind of sat down and went, we've got something to tell you. We've been telling you a lie, but we've been going through IVF and it didn't work. And I found that really, really hard to tell him. And the look on his face and the disappointment on his face is something that I don't think I'll ever forget. And I think it was really hard ringing people. So I didn't want to just text my mum, text my dad, text my grandma. So I kind of had to ring them all and say the same thing over and over and over. And that was really hard. So I rang my mum, and my mum was really upset, but bless her, she was so supportive. And it was just, yeah, it was just horrible. Like, nobody knows what to say to you, and I think that's the hardest bit of it, that nobody knows what to say to you anyway throughout any, ooh, nearly fell off my chair there. Nobody knows what to say to you throughout any of it, that when it doesn't work, people still don't know what to say to you. And you get other comments like, you know, people sitting there going, well, you can always try again, and, you know, the chances of it not working the first time are really slim anyway, you knew there was a possibility, and you just think, this doesn't help me. So you do end up kind of just feeling naff, and just telling people and getting those responses. It's just really hard. Like, I think, you know, we were very lucky and that we have a good support system of friends, and our friends were amazing and rang us and were texting us, sending us literally condolences. I had a very good friend of mine send me a massive bunch of flowers. I had another friend come around with a great big care package for both of us. I had a friend that I talked to on Instagram who sent me a really, really nice card, and it was just, it was just lovely. Like, people are so nice. And yeah, it was just really hard to tell everyone. And I think then when it came to our friends, kind of like, both of us are in group chats with all our best friends, so rather than having to ring each and every one of those, I just kind of sent a message into that text, into that group chat, and told them, and like, everyone was just brilliant. But yeah, I took it really hard, and it has been a really hard week. Like, I think we always knew that chances are it was going to fail. We always knew that the odds were not in our favour, and we've known that from the word go. But I think the fact that we didn't even make it to transfer was just like, we hadn't prepared for that. We'd prepared for the 2-week wait, and we'd prepared for the negative pregnancy test, but we hadn't prepared for that. And it's things like that that you don't even think about when you're planning it, and when you're doing your injections and this, that and the other. It's just standard procedure. You expect to get to that point, but then you don't, and you're like, well, what now? Like, that's it, that is it, it's done. You don't even get the chance to be pregnant until proven otherwise, so they call it, and you're just a bit stumped. And I literally spent 4 days crying. And that's all I did. So this was on the Friday that it failed, and on the Saturday we decided we were just going to get really drunk. I hadn't drank in quite a while in preparation for it, so we just thought sod it. So we had some really good friends of ours come round, and we did get incredibly drunk, and I didn't cry. I did very well actually, and it was needed. I think sometimes you just need it, don't you? Like sometimes you just need a good night. And that's exactly what we had. And then I woke up the next day with a new bout of positivity, and I felt really like, right, okay, we go again, we do it again, we crack on. And then by the afternoon, that's it, I was in bits again. And I feel like it's been like that all week. Like I feel like it has been such a roller coaster, and 1 minute I'm okay and the next minute I'm not, and I feel like I've lost all over again. I do think it's really hard to put into words, but that's the only way I can describe it. It's like a loss. And that's it. It is just, it's hard. I think it triggered a lot of stuff for me. Like I think, so on the Monday I needed to go to the post office, and like the anxiety that I'd got around that, like you feel so vulnerable. And I think that's just how I felt. Like I felt vulnerable, and I felt like everybody knew, and you know, strangers don't know. I could go to the shop and Bob from London, that's conveniently just got off a train and is walking through town, isn't going to know that I've just had a failed round of IVF, and he isn't going to be thinking, oh, look at her, she's infertile. Not that anyone thinks that anyway, but that's how irrational your brain is. So I didn't want to go out, I didn't want to go anywhere, I didn't want to do anything, I just wanted to stay at home. So getting dressed and going to the post office took me an hour. I'd gone to a supermarket up the road that's got all these different shops there and this and the other, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go treat myself. My sister had given me a gift card as part of my present for my birthday, so I thought, sod it, do you know what, I'm going to go spend it. Anyway, I got there and I saw 9 babies, so I left. I got what I needed and I left, because I just thought I can't, and I felt like I was going to have a panic attack, and it was horrible. And it just seems to have triggered all these different things from before IVF and before infertility, and all these different feelings that just surfaced because, well, I don't really know why, but it did. And I felt vulnerable, and I felt sad, and I felt like it was all my fault and everybody was judging me, and I just felt guilty. And I don't know, it took an awful lot for me to get dressed and go out that day. And going back to work, I didn't want to do that either. Like the night before, I went back to work on Tuesday, and I'd had 2 weeks off, and initially I'd done it so that I had 2 weeks off, and the 2-week wait was meant to end on like day 3 of my annual leave, but because I was so late on for my period in the first place, we were nearly a month late starting, and therefore it didn't work out like that. Like I was going back to work a few days after my supposed transfer, so I had to go back to work. And again, the night before I was panicking and I was really scared and I didn't want to go, and I had every intention of going in and then coming home, but I didn't. I stuck it out and I stayed there, and I did pretty much all week. I did pretty much all week. I ended up coming home early on Saturday, because I think, I'll get onto that in a minute, but so I went back to work, and I just felt a bit like a rabbit in headlights. Like, so the only way I can explain it, I just felt like a fish out of water. What is it with me and animal examples? But yeah, that's just how I felt. Like I felt like everyone was staring at me, and again, it's one of those that nobody knows what to say to you. And I think I went back, and I think 2 people said something to me, and that's it. And you kind of feel like, I felt like I didn't want to go back to work because I felt like I was then accepting that it hadn't worked, and I didn't want to accept that it hadn't worked, and I felt like by going back to work I was getting on with my life and that was it was over, and I didn't feel ready to accept that, and I still don't in a way. It's really weird. Like, I don't feel like it's over, but it is. It's over. It didn't work, and I think accepting that is quite hard because you build yourself up. The thing with trying to conceive is that you are faced with constant hope and then disappointment, and hope and disappointment, and hope and disappointment, and so on and so on and so on. That when you finally get to the point of IVF, you have to be positive. You can't go into it feeling negative. And yet you go in and you think, right, this is it, this is my time, this is going to work for me. And then something happens and your follicles aren't the way they should be, or your womb lining isn't thickening the way it should be, and you are back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's a constant roller coaster that when it doesn't work, you're right back at square one. And it's really easy to sit there and go, well, you can try again. But what people forget is that this is, despite how much you want the end goal, and despite how worth it will be in the end, despite all of that, it is effectively a gamble, and you are quite literally walking into a medical casino, putting all of your money, and I mean everything, your life savings, everything, onto a table and playing a game of roulette. That is exactly what you're doing. And so take the end goal out of it. If you can't tell me that you could walk into a casino, put £8,000 on a table, play it, lose it, and then not think about the risk of putting another £8,000 down, then I don't believe you. End goal or no end goal, it's a gamble. And I think that's what makes it even harder as well, that there's still no guarantees. Like, we could go through this again and there are no guarantees. And one thing I kept saying to Marco all weekend was, I don't know how many times I can put myself through this. And, you know, I see people on Instagram and I talk to women and know of women who have gone through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds of IVF. In fact, I think I met a lady when I went on that fertility retreat a few months ago, who had in excess of 12 rounds. And how do you do it? Like, how do you do that? How do you consistently feel the way that I've felt for the last week? Because that's my, I think, biggest fear. My biggest fear is it never ever working and feeling like this over and 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 over for nothing. That's what makes it so hard. It's the not knowing, and it's the uncertainty, and it's the knowing that every time we do this I'm going to feel a little less positive, and knowing that the next time we go into this I am going to have all this in the back of my head, and I know that it might not work because it hasn't already. I think throughout the week I kind of, well, you kind of have to get used to it, and you kind of, you know, life goes on, and as much as you think it won't, it does. And so I think by Friday I was starting to feel a bit better. I think on Thursday the clinic actually rang us and had said, you know, they've had a look at the embryos and there wasn't anything wrong. I think initially they thought it was the morphology or something to do with that, but it wasn't. And they just don't know why. I think really it came down to a case of luck, which was a good thing and a bad thing. Like, it was a good thing in that, okay, we knew there wasn't anything further wrong, but it's another case of no answers. So they have said that they're kind of like, they're happy for us to go again. They want me to have a natural bleed and then go again. So we're looking at the end of January, early February time, which is fine. You know, it's soon enough. But at the same time, I'm a bit like, well, what's to say that this won't happen again? And I'm nervous about that. And I'm bound to be, really. I can't be too hard on myself. I am bound to be nervous. They're going to do it on different medication because I didn't seem to respond too well to this one. And it's just not ideal. Oh, but what can you do? You know, we either go again or we don't. And if we don't go again, then we're not going to get what we want. So we are going to go again. Of course we're going to go again. It's just building myself up to that and trying not to feel so negative about it. I've been on a waiting list for the local counsellor at my local hospital since I had my laparoscopy, and it was almost like a bad omen of some kind because she got in contact with me the night before it failed. And told me that she had an appointment for me, and so I booked in for Monday, as in not the Monday coming, the following Monday, so yesterday. And I had my first appointment, and it just was a bit like, it was like she knew that it was going to happen, and that was a good thing. So I'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, so towards the end of the week, I did kind of start to accept it. I'd got my withdrawal bleed on the Thursday, which has just been, no, the Wednesday, sorry, which has just been horrific. It has been horrifically painful. It has been horrifically heavy. And it's just not going away, which isn't very nice. And I've not really liked very much. It is, honestly, to put it frank, it's been a bitch. But it does mean that, you know, hopefully I'll have a natural bleed now at the end of December, and we can have our treatment consultation again in January and go again ASAP Rocky. But yeah, it's been stressful. So that's why I went home from work early on Saturday, because the pain in my stomach was unreal. Like, I didn't think it'd be as painful as normal periods, but it really was for me. And I was in agony. So I went home, and then I was okay on Sunday. And I do seem to be getting there. Like I say, I had my first appointment with my counsellor on Monday. So that is today, but when you're watching this, yesterday. So I had my first appointment with her this morning, and I was actually really impressed. I think it went really, really well. She spoke to me an awful lot about blame. At the moment, it's just a case of it being a bit of an assessment of, you know, what I want to get out of it, what I'm like, things that have happened in my life. And she seems to be touching on everything with me rather than just the infertility, which I think is a good thing. So there were some things that happened when I was a teenager that she wants to talk to me about. There are things like my parents splitting up, things like that, growing up in the environment that I did, and then on top of that, a nasty previous relationship I was in that was really quite abusive. She wants to cover on that, and she thinks that all these different things kind of lead up to me feeling the way I do with it, and why I seem to be blaming myself for literally all of it, when it isn't my fault. And I know it's not my fault, but you blame yourself. Like, it's very easy for me to sit here and say that it's not my fault, but that's how you feel. So I think that's going to be really beneficial, or I hope it is anyway. But we'll see. I'll have to let you know about that in a few weeks. But yeah, I think initially I wasn't coping at all. And I think now I am. Like, Marco does seem to cope with things an awful lot better than I do. Like, I think on the Friday we were both so upset and we were both really down and really sad, and then on the Saturday I got angry, and I was just angry, and I was just angry at everyone and everything, and I took it all out on him, which wasn't nice, and you know, there were cross words said and what have you, but that lasted an hour, and then we sat and we spoke it all through. And he's very kind of like, he resigns to his problems almost. He kind of, a problem happens and it's like, right, okay, I feel sad about it. Right, I felt sad about it now. Now what can I do to kind of make this better? What can I do? I need to accept that it's happened, and I need to kind of just learn to live with that. And I think he brings me up in that sense. Like, if I think he was more like me, I would still be sat here in a rut. Because it is hard. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's been a really easy week, because it hasn't been. Like, I have honestly felt every single emotion known to man this week. Because you do, you invest everything into it, everything. You invest everything you have into this treatment, and then for it not to work, and you just... How do you keep picking yourself up, you know? But I think I'm doing it. I think I'm getting there. You know, I feel a lot more positive than I did. I feel like, right, we've got another go, we'll go. We can do this, we can try again. We're happy to go with our clinic again, we've got the money to go again. And then if it doesn't work, then we question everything, you know. We've already said, if it doesn't work, will I look at changing jobs? Will I look at... You know, there's a lot of different things in our lives, I think, that could do with a bit of a shake-up. So they're bridges that we'll cross when we get to it. But for now, we'll go again. And that's all we can do. And I can't sit and mope around forever. So I've accepted that this is the way I feel and that I feel sad about it, but I've allowed myself to feel sad, and now we need to move on. Now we need to pick ourselves up and we need to crack on with it. So that's what we're going to do. You know, it's December next week, and I am determined to have the best Christmas and the most Christmassy Christmas known to man. You do not understand how excited I am for Christmas. Last year we had such a crap Christmas because I was so sad, and we'd only just been diagnosed as faulty fallopian tubey, and I was just in self-destruct last Christmas. So this Christmas I am going to smash it. So pick yourselves up, let's enjoy Christmas, get over and done with, drink so much wine we could drown a baby hippo, and start the new year on a high, trying again, round 2, second time lucky. We bloody hope. Okay, so that's it from me. I think I just felt like I needed to give you all a bit of a catch up and just kind of keep you in the loop, keep you in the loop of what's been going on, why I've not been active this week. So normal service will completely resume next week. There's lots of things I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about the stims, all these different things and different... I've got loads of videos. So it's all good. In the next couple of weeks, next few weeks leading up to Christmas, and like I say, the first week after New Year, the fertility episodes will continue. They will continue to be every Saturday like normal. I'm sorry this week has been a bit of a slip up, but obviously, as I'm sure you'll understand, the last week, 10 days has been a bit mental. So that's what it's going to be. So every Saturday from here on in December, videos are going to be coming, Christmassy videos. I've got an awful lot of content lined up for you. I am buzzing. I am not skipping over Christmas. Christmas is happening, and Christmas is happening big. So yeah, cool. All right, I'm going to leave you now. But yeah, thanks ever so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed your wines. I hope you feel all up to date with what's going on in Amberland. As always, if you have any questions, anything like that, drop me a comment down below. head over to my Instagram, send me a message, whatever. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you've liked, make sure that you've commented, and please make sure that you subscribe, and I will see you during the week on Instagram. So thank you very much, and I'll see you later.